While on an exploratory dive in 2007, a diver eagerly descended into the dark and mysterious Pearse Resurgence Cave. But things started to go wrong after he passed the 70-foot mark. The Pearse Resurgence is a cave filled with water hidden deep in the Pearse Valley in New Zealand's Kahurangi National Park. People know it because the water inside is super cold and sometimes rushes really fast. It's said to be one of the hardest caves to explore in Australia and New Zealand. The water in the cave stays chilly, around 43 to 45 degrees Fahrenheit, and sometimes it flows really fast. Sadly, someone died there while diving in 1995, which makes it even scarier. But it's not just physically tough, it messes with your mind too. It feels like a big challenge, both mentally and physically. Even though it's risky, the cave is also amazingly beautiful, with its twisty paths and secret rooms just waiting to be discovered. But exploring the Pearse Resurgence Cave isn't something for the easily scared. The paths are narrow, and there are deep pools of water that make it tricky to get around. To explore the Pearse Resurgence, you need to be a skilled caver with the right gear and a lot of experience. One of the toughest parts of the cave is the amount of water rushing through it. The river underground can be really strong and unpredictable, making it dangerous to go inside. Plus, it's dark, which makes it even scarier because you can't always see what's coming up ahead. People have worked hard to explore this cave over the years. Explorers like Keith Deckers, Kieran McKay, Dave Apperly, Tim Cashman, Chris Brown, Dave Dulett, and others have made slow but steady progress since they first dived into the cave in 1975. On March 14, 2007, a team of experienced divers, including Dave Apperly, Rick Stanton, Craig Howell, John Atkinson, and Richard Harris, gathered at the Pearse Resurgence Cave for a big exploration mission. They were all geared up and ready to take on the challenge of diving into this tough cave system. Dave knows this cave like the back of his hand. He spent a lot of time exploring every nook and cranny. He's even set up a special resting area called a habitat right at the start of the cave passage, about 18 feet down. These divers were all pumped up and eager to see what mysteries the Pearse Resurgence had in store for them. Except for John Atkinson, who planned on doing shallower dives, all the divers decided to use mixed-gas closed-circuit rebreathers for their dives. These special gadgets help them stay underwater longer and make their dives safer. After a long and tiring 24-hour journey with very little sleep, Craig, John, and Richard finally made it to camp to meet up with Dave and Rick. Dave and Rick had been working hard for the past few days, getting everything ready for the dive. Even though John had recently gotten over the flu, which made him arrive late at the Pearse Resurgence, he was feeling up to the challenge. He had two 12-liter side mounts with him and followed the line into the Nightmare Crescent, planning to place the tanks at 108 feet deep. As he went deeper into the cave, he couldn't help but be amazed by the beauty around him. But when he reached 70 feet, something didn't feel right. Suddenly, John started feeling unwell, and he had no clue what was about to happen next. As Dave and Rick descended deeper into the dark, mysterious cave, illuminated only by the faint glow of their dive lights, they noticed something unsettling. Dave's heart sank as he realized his stage bottles were nowhere to be found. Frantically, they scanned the cave's rocky walls and crevices, but the precious tanks weren't anywhere to be found. Initially, they tried to sum it up to a simple oversight or perhaps misplacing the tanks at the entrance. However, as they delved further into the cave's labyrinthine passages, they felt disturbed. They couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. As Craig and Richard were at their campsite, enjoying the peaceful atmosphere, they couldn't help but notice that John had been gone for quite a while, approximately 90 minutes. This got them a bit worried, but they figured Dave and Rick, who had gone into the cave earlier, would have John's back if anything went south. They trusted that their friends knew what they were doing and could handle any trouble that came their way. As John dived past the 70-foot mark underwater, things took a serious turn for the worse. His vision started to blur, and water seeped into his mask, making it hard to see. Panicked, He clutched onto the guideline to stop his descent and quickly detached one of his spare tanks, but he knew something wasn't right. Feeling an urgent need to escape, he attempted to swim upward, only to find the shaft around him swirling and twisting violently. Vertigo gripped him tightly, leaving him disoriented and unable to control his movements. With the guideline in one hand, he struggled to discern which direction led to safety. His sense of up and down completely scrambled. John realized he was in serious trouble. John felt like he was on a wild roller coaster ride, being thrown against the cave walls by a dizzying sensation. As he tumbled around, the cave's walls crumbled, and he couldn't see anything in the pitch-black darkness. It was like some invisible force had grabbed him and was shaking him like a rag doll, while darkness closed in on the edges of his vision. He was scared out of his wits, thinking he might black out at any moment. But John held on to that lifeline, the guideline, for dear life. Somehow, he ended up on top of it. Thinking he was making a break for it, he swam forward, but realized he had gone the wrong way. Eventually, he stumbled upon another set of lines and saw some glimmers up ahead. Figuring it might be his ticket out, he swam toward those shiny spots and ended up popping out into an air chamber. It turns out he was stuck there, and that realization hit him like a ton of bricks. Panic set in as he realized just how dire his situation had become. John took a moment to gather his thoughts and quickly realized the grim reality. If he attempted to dive again, it would be a death sentence. The relentless grip of vertigo had him firmly in its clutches, leaving him helpless. Disoriented and confused, he couldn't even tell which way was up or down, and his mind was spinning with hallucinations. Despite the chaos swirling around him, John mustered a sliver of composure and began to survey his surroundings. He found himself adrift in water that chilled him to the bone. Just when he thought things couldn't get any worse, a wave of panic washed over him like a tidal wave. Struggling to breathe, he felt as if the collar of his dry suit was constricting around his neck, suffocating him. Frantically, he clawed at the fabric, desperate for relief. Facing a critical choice between life and death, John knew he had to act swiftly. With determination coursing through his veins, he propelled himself upward, aiming for the surface with every ounce of strength he could muster. He groped blindly, his fingers brushing against something sharp. Grasping onto it desperately, he hauled himself out of the water, gasping for breath as he emerged into the open air. With trembling hands, he scribbled a message on his dive slate, declaring his intent to wait for Dave to come to his rescue. As the minutes stretched into an agonizing eternity, John found himself enveloped in the darkness of the cave. With each passing moment, the tight grip of his dry suit felt increasingly suffocating, constricting his airways and making it difficult to draw a single breath. He decided to get rid of the stifling cloth. Then he groped blindly in the darkness, searching for any semblance of light to guide him. Yet all he encountered was an endless expanse of impenetrable blackness. Being in that scary situation was really bad, and he started breathing faster. He thought about using a light on a search reel to get help, but he didn't want to waste the batteries. Suddenly, he saw a bright blue light under the water. He quickly got his helmet, turned on the brightest light, and put it under the water, moving it around and flashing the light. He felt really scared when he saw the blue glow go away and disappear into the dark water. This was just awful and made John really mad because he was so close to being found by the other divers. After waiting for about 20 minutes, he saw another glow. He flashed his light, but the glow went away. John was getting ready to close his eyes and give up when the water around him started glowing a bright blue. It had to be Dave with his gray camera light. Once again, John felt a huge rush of determination. He knew that if he didn't try to get the divers' attention, they might not see him as they descended, and he might never get rescued. So he quickly put on his diving gear and descended down the line, his vision getting narrower. He kept one hand on the dive line and the other on the wall to stay balanced. As he descended, he could see the lights on Dave's helmet and the outline of his yellow rebreather. He waved his light around a lot, hoping Dave would see him, but he couldn't tell if Dave did notice him. John felt really dizzy, and his vertigo was getting worse, so he didn't want to swim away from the wall to go to Dave. But after about a minute, Dave swam up to him, and they surfaced together in the chamber. After a couple of minutes, John started feeling dizzy again, and when Dave tried to talk to him, he couldn't speak at all. He needed to take a break, breathe deeply, and calm down. John removed the regulator from his mouth and admitted to Dave that he had made a mistake and was sorry for getting stuck down there. Dave was just so happy to see John that he didn't even care about the mistake, even though it could have been deadly. Dave took off his rebreather, brushed off the apology, and asked about the gas he had left. Luckily for him, he still had enough. John wasn't worried about having enough gas. He was more concerned about the possibility of losing consciousness. His vertigo was still really bad. With Dave holding his hand for balance, they descended to 56 feet and found the main line. Twice on the way out, John lost the line when it went under rocks. If Dave hadn't have been there, John might not have made it. The next day, Craig and John had normal dives while Dave and Rick explored deeper into the cave. They found a shaft almost 525 feet deep. Rick set a new record with a dive to 581 feet. Harry and Craig helped with the exploration and went on dives to 450 feet. Every year, the explorers go deeper into the cave and find new passages and chambers. In 2008, they reached 597 feet, which was impressive. Then in 2011, they went even deeper to 636 feet. In 2012, they explored down to 725 feet, and by 2016, they reached 751 feet. In 2020, using Seacraft scooters, they went down to 803 feet, which was a really big accomplishment. We would like to thank you for watching this video. If you enjoyed watching, take a dive on the like and subscribe buttons and hit the bell icon so you get notified when we come back with another exciting cave diving story.